Welcome, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Data-Driven Policymaking Week, presented by Policy Cloud. Today we're at number 3, Intelligent Policies for the Food Value Chain. My name is Marieke Willems from Trust IT, and I'll be moderating this webinar for you today. We are going to give people a few more minutes to join so that we can all start together. So I see people are slowly joining. That's good. So welcome everyone to the Data-Driven Policymaking Week. As already said earlier, we are now at the third in our four-day week. The third edition is on intelligent policies for the food value chain in the Policy Cloud project. Okay, Zach, I think it's 2. Should we start?
Yeah, go for it.
Good. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the Data-Driven Policymaking Week presented to you by the Policy Cloud project. Today we're at number 3, Intelligent Policies for the Food Value Chain. And my name is Marieke Willems from Trust IT, and I will be moderating this session today. You have entered this webinar in the listen-only mode, but of course you have the option to provide your comments in the chat, to put your questions in the Q&A, all at the bottom of the Zoom platform. In addition, if you want to elaborate your question or your comment, we can of course unmute you, and you can also put up your hand when you want to pose the question directly in audio. Okay, then rest me to say that the webinar will be or is being recorded. So the recordings will be made available after the full series is completed. So you can then check the recordings, any parts that you've missed. And you can also have a look at the slides that we'll also be uploading. Okay, so let's get started. With me today are Mariano Navarro, Miguel, Gracia, and Javier Sancho. I will be explaining a little bit more about their backgrounds when it's their turn to speak in this webinar. Just a little bit about Policy Cloud. I'm sure my colleagues will also explain it more extensively, but it's good to have an overview while painting the picture of the full series. So Policy Cloud is a European project with a duration of 3 years. So we started in January 2020 and we'll finish in December 2022 with a budget over 5 million euros, and we're 15 partners from all over Europe where we are from industry, research and academia, and also policy-making organizations. Now, the Policy Cloud for data-driven policy management will provide integrated reusable models and analytical tools, turning raw data into valuable and actionable knowledge towards efficient policymaking. Now, very quickly, because I'm sure that this will be extensively addressed. So this is what Policy Cloud in the end will deliver: an integrated cloud-based environment, technologies for policy optimization, a policy development toolkit, and interoperable models for policymaking. Now, all this full solution will be implemented in 4 different pilot cases where we cover different societal challenges. So we address urban policymaking in Bulgaria, we address open data policies for citizens in the UK, and we address policies against radicalization in Italy. And today, we are going to focus really on the intelligent policies for the food value chain addressed in Spain, and more specifically in Aragon. So the full series, as you can see, we've highlighted every pilot over the course of this week. So today we're at the 3rd session where we really dive deep into the intelligent policies for the food value chain. The agenda introduction, we're already there. After this, we'll go into a poll to understand a little bit more about you, about who you are. Then Javier Sancho will paint the picture of the policy challenges that we're facing in the intelligent policies for the food value chain pilot. Then Miguel Gracia will explain how Policy Cloud is going to address that policy challenge with the technological solution that we're proposing. And then we've invited Mariano Navarro from Traxa and also the DEMETER project to paint the bigger picture, to have a look at the policy challenge that we are facing, the policy cloud solution, and compare it with what he is seeing in the agri-food sector. And then we would like to close off with the Q&A. So if you have some questions for our speakers, if you have some comments, some things that you've seen in your own environment, please let us know and put it in the chat, in the Q&A, or raise your hand. Thanks, Zach. So the poll is launched. So what stakeholder group do you belong to? So are you a policymaker? Are you an IT specialist? Do you come from the wine sector? Do you come from the agri-food sector? Or do you not belong to any of these options above? So please put in your the stakeholder group that you belong to. Most of you other, all of you other, okay. Could you put in the chat, could you explain that a little bit in the chat? So which stakeholder group we haven't included here? Zach, I'm not sure I can see the chat. I don't know if there are any comments in the chat.
Well, we have legal consultants as one of them.
Okay, good. Okay, so if you can add the stakeholder group that you belong to, please let us know. Okay, so then I would like to invite Javier Sancho to prepare his slides while I'll briefly introduce him. So Javier Sancho from Sarga, he studied law at the University of Zaragoza and received his master in marketing and commercial management. He has extensive experience in managing complex projects and event organization, and he worked during the 6th and 7th term in the cabinet of the Aragon Minister of Agriculture and Environment. He also has experience in management of European projects, international trends, and he collaborates regularly with the General Direction of E-Administration and Digital Society. Javier, the floor is yours. Javier, I think you're muted.
Okay, now you can see my screen.
I can hear you, but I can't see your screen yet.
Yeah, my screen now is ready?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Well, at the moment. Direct problems. But say me that it's clear. Oh no. Sorry. Yeah.
We've lost him.
No?
He's back.
Okay, sorry, because
yeah?
some connection problems. Okay, here. I'm going to, okay, perfect. I know you can see it, sure?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we're going to start with with a first view for the wine sector in Aragon. Okay, the wine sector in Aragon it's quite important because with 43,811 hectares, occupies 3.5% of the cultivated area and generates 4.5% of the value for agricultural promotion, with 44.66 million euros. It's quite important in Aragon because Aragon has a big problem. It has a big problem with the population, because bear in mind that Aragon region is like it's 17,000 square kilometers more than Belgium, and only lives 1,300,000 people, and 1 million of these people lives in the capital in Zaragoza. The rest of rural areas are only occupied by 3,100 inhabitants. In some parts we have 3 3 inhabitants for square kilometer, less than Sweden, Lapland, for example. It's quite hard the situation. But we have a very strong tradition with the wine sector, and we have several quality figures. We have 4 denominations of origin. Wapago wine, it's quite similar to denomination of origin, and 6 wines with protected geographical indication. Also, Dio Cava. Dio Cava is something like champagne. And as I told you, it's constitutes a backbone and denomination element for our territory that's present in compares more than 180 operators, wineries, wine warehouses, companies, and feed more than 4,000 families linked to the sector. Because this reason is quite important to fight against the population in our region. The commitment of the Aragon, the government of Aragon, it's strong because Aragon makes more than 12 million euros yearly available to the wine sector through various lines of development, marketing, restructuration of the vineyard, supporting investment and promotion in certain countries. This project, the Policy Cloud, is quite important for us because we're going to focus on marketing and promotion in third countries through the toolkits for the project. The Department of Agriculture, Livestock and Environmental launched the promotion strategy Aragon Life of Wines and Talent, with them to highlight in our territory vineyards, viticulture and wines through the renowned Aragon talent that works in the sector. We want to join the agri-food sector and the wine sector in 2 sides. The part of the agri-food sector and the tourist sector linked to the wine. Because it's important that tourism linked to the wine sector is quite important in Spain. It's a strategic pillar for Aragon's policy in this moment, the agri-food promotion. It's supported by the proper funds of the government of Aragon, and we participate in a lot of the numerous European research programs related to the wine. In fact, we have in this moment with Itennova, with Miguel Gracia, we work on 2 research programs, Policy Cloud, Grapevine. This Grapevine is against disease in the wine sector. Aragon exports more than 65% of this wine production with an export value of 12 million euros. And I know we have a very big problem because this market, it's very affected. It's hit strongly for the COVID-19 crisis. Bear in mind that in the last year, all the restaurants, bars in Spain, Europe, and the most parts of the world have been closed. The sector, it's been very, very affected by the situation. But the challenges for the Policy Cloud is establish a tool that allows to detect the market trends, searching the specialized websites, social networks, and key actors in the sector, because it's quite important to do the trends in this market to go first against your competitors, because it's very important to focus your marketing strategy. Have a tool that allows us to see the impact of different Aragonese brands, the denomination of origin and wine sector in general, or social networks. It's clear that the new channels of communication for the young people are the social networks, and we need to move faster in this world, because it's quite important to get the trends, to get the positive and negative impacts of your brands, of your wine, try to focus to get these young people to the wine sector. Know the price fluctuation in the wine markets. This is for the 2 reasons. Know the behavior of your competitors, because it's quite important, and be able to define a pricing strategy. Pricing strategy is quite important for the vineyards and the sector, because, for example, you can have problems with one distributor ask you for a big quantity of wine, and for example, one web page that will sell this wine cheaper. It's a very big problem for the vineyards and for the producers. This is a fast view for the wine sector in Aragon, and now Miguel Angel is going to explain you for the technical point of view our project.
Thanks, Javier. Thanks. So you really stress the fact that the Aragon region is looking for the economic growth for the region, so the Aragon government. So while Miguel Angel is going to set up his slides, I will briefly introduce you. So Miguel Angel Gracia from Itainova, telecommunications engineer from the University of Zaragoza, and he has extensive work experience as a project engineer at the Technical Institute of Aragon. He has been involved in different R&D projects, both private and public funded schemes in different areas such as telco, multimedia, or factories of future. His technical experience and knowledge is focused on intelligent data analysis, big data, and digital transformation processes. Miguel Angel, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks a lot, Marieke, for your introduction. I think you can see the slides. And the idea is to...
Not yet, sorry.
Not yet?
No. Yes, they're coming now.
Okay. Can you see it now?
No, not the slides. We see the folders.
Folders.
Okay. 1 second that I'm going to present. And I
Yes,
think
perfect.
it's working
Yeah,
now. Okay.
now it is. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your introduction. It's a big pleasure to be here in this webinar and taking part in the Policy Cloud project. And I'm going to continue with the presentation that Javier has explained. Javier has mentioned the importance of the wine sector in our region, and we're trying to link with the policy objectives that we have in this use case. Okay, as it has been mentioned, the main objective that we have is the promotion of the regional wine sector through the support, assistance for investment, and the development of the Aragonese wines in the third countries. We have focused on the wine sector because, as Javier has mentioned, it's very important by the fact that it's a very important in the sport, but it can be extended to different products of the agri-food market. Okay, and the idea that we have with these scenarios is to try to develop a tool that is based on public policies in order to support the analysis and the decision making. And we are going to try to analyze the different trends that we have in the wine sector, the different opinions that we can gather and we can collect, and also we will try to monitor the prices. We're going to explain these use cases, and we will try to clarify the three of them. Okay. The first scenario that we have is opinion analysis. The idea of this scenario is to visualize the negative and positive opinions that we can collect from social networks. Of course, we're going to work with a hierarchy. We have from the more generic point of view, that is the designation of origin. As Javier have mentioned, we have 6 designations of origin in Aragon, and they are the different areas where the wines are produced, okay? And these designations, they comprise different wineries, and of course, each of these wineries, they produce different brands and different bottles, okay? So the idea is to try to analyze all this information regarding this, regarding the wine, and try to display the opinions from different perspectives or from different point of views. Of course, we're going to try to collect our customers' point of view, but also it's very important to analyze the competitors' point of view. Okay, so the idea is to try to determine, to have a tool in order to determine the impact of the campaigns on consumers. Okay, we are going to be able to do some profiling of users, and we are going to try to evaluate our strategies and, of course, the competitor strategies in terms of sales, positioning, branding, and so on. The idea is to try to include some visualization options, as we will show you a little bit later, and the different filters or criteria. The idea is to try to collect the number of likes, the number of comments, the retweets, the feeds, all the information that we can gather from social networks, and we're going to add some filters in order to have this information by location, by date, or wherever. And the idea is to have a tool that it will provide some insights. And the insights that we are trying to find are the answers of these questions. What is the opinion that the consumers have about our designations of origin, about a specific winery, about a specific brand? how is my competition doing, which kind of wine brands are trending on internet, or which grape varieties are on trend. And also we are also trying to get information regarding people from different age. For instance, millennials. Is wine variety popular among millennials or not? So the idea is to have a tool that is going to show the different opinions by the different countries. So we are going to try to collect this information worldwide, and we're going to try to see the evolution of the impact and the evolution of the opinion that the customers have about our wines. Okay, this would be the first scenario. The second one is aligned with this. We are trying to analyze the different trends. You know that in the wine sector, we have a lot of prescriptors, a lot of experts, critics, that they, with their opinions, they can have a big impact on the consumers, because they, if a critic say that one wine is very important and they rate it highly, this information is going to have an impact on the wineries and on the brands. So we try to identify these critics and these experts in order to find the different trends that we have in the sector. Okay, the idea is to try to identify these topics and to be able to compare over time. So we are going to try to identify these trends and to identify the different markets that present opportunities for our wines regarding these trends. So for instance, we're going to see here, but we can see the most mentioned concepts. If eco-friendly or organic wines are trendy, and maybe these concepts or these trends are present in different countries, for instance, in the States, maybe we can adapt the campaigns and the marketing campaigns or the promotion efforts in relation with these trends and addressed by specific countries. So the idea is to have the different terms of the different lists and to see how these concepts are increasing or decreasing over time. So we'll have some insights in order to get much more information and quality information. And the third scenario is what Javier has mentioned previously, that is also very important to monitor the wine sales price. And the reason for this is because the wineries, they have contracts with large distribution groups, and they have some penalties in case the prices of the wines are sold below a minimum threshold. And in this sector is very specialized, and they have a lot of different websites or specialized websites where it's very difficult to control the price of the wine. So the idea is to have a tool that will try to do this in an automated way. So for the wineries, it will be easy to select some references and try to have like a huge data set with the prices, the daily prices that are collected from the different supermarket or specialized websites. So we will be able to see this evolution and to see the different alerts and to receive some alerts in order to do some actions to avoid these penalties that we have mentioned previously. And this is the idea and the contribution that Policy Clouds try to do in our use case, in the Aragon use case. And maybe if you have any kind of question, we can clarify later. So thank you very much. And I give the floor to Marieke.
Thanks, Miguel Angel. It was very illustrative to how the tool that we're going to provide to policymakers to address their policy challenges in the food value chain. So now I would like to give the floor to Mariano Navarro. So now, while you are setting up, I'll briefly introduce you. So Mariano Navarro is the head of ICT and R&D at Traxa. Traxa is a state-owned company in Spain providing services in the environmental, rural development and resource management, emergency management. Mariano is involved in many projects in this domain, so including DEMETER, as you can see already in his background, and NIVA. In DEMETER, he manages the piloting activities, so there he also can relate probably very well to what we're discussing today. Mariano, the floor is yours.
So thank you, Marieke, and thank you to the Policy Cloud project for the invitation. Yes, I'm here on behalf of the DEMETER project, mainly. I will explain more or less which are the main figures, but instead of that, immediately I will share with you many thoughts how these Policy Cloud solutions might be useful, not only for policymakers, but for everyone in the agro sector. So, if I start sharing only a couple of slides, not many. Okay. I think that you can see the DEMETER presentation. I don't know if you can see it now.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. So then, DEMETER is an innovation project. I would like to pay attention on the title even. So, building an interoperable, data-driven, innovative and sustainable European agri-food sector. What are the links with the Policy Cloud project? Obviously, this sector you mentioned, the agri-food sector, but for me, we share also the data-driven approach. But for me, the interoperability and sustainable are keywords also that the Policy Cloud project have to pay attention in order to facilitate how useful might be these Policy Cloud solutions for policymakers. Just to share also one figure very quickly, I think it's this one. Check. You are seeing, looking my. Okay, now you can see the figures of the DEMETER project. Just to, we started also in more than 1 year ago. We are more than 60 partners over 18 countries, more than 150 farms across Europe. And then, we encapsulate in 6 clusters 20 pilots of the agri sector involving all the stakeholders necessary under the multi-actor approach, not only farmers, but ICT providers, local policymakers also, that again are driving what are the data harmonization that are required in order to facilitate interoperability, in order to take advantage of solutions like the one that you are offering in Policy Cloud. So then I think it's not necessary to share more. I would like to share with you some thoughts. I also participate in another project which involves paging agencies, which are policymakers for the future common agrarian policy, which is called NIVA. And as you mentioned, belongs to Traxa Group, which is a public company that belongs to the Spanish administration at national, regional, and local level. So we are in close contact with policymakers, more or less. And I saw the solutions. I imagine that these cloud solutions is a good way to share also information between the policymakers and the rest of the stakeholders in the value chain. So why a policymaker can benefit from this kind of solutions? On one hand, the policymakers have their own responsibilities of designing policies, measuring the impact of those policies in the territory, assigning funds to those policies, and they have to manage that, but they have one specific target, one specific policy, and there are many that are interrelated. So if we talk about the agro sector, We are talking about common agrarian policy, as I say. We are talking about environmental policies and the Green Deal. We are talking about rural development. All those are policies with different funds that are supporting activities there. And they manage their own data sets, but definitely they have to interoperate with other data sets from other policies if we really want to cross all the data in order to take decisions. So agro data, environmental data, economical data, social data, there are many data sets that are supported by different public administration that have to be shared, then have to be harmonized and have to be published. So all those are the next task that we have to accomplish. And if we take the sector also with the private sector, the industries and also the farmers, again, they have to share with them the information because it's useful for them in order to take decisions. But now, on the other hand, it's also necessary the feedback from them to the policymakers, because if not, they cannot take decisions. And okay, we can give you many examples. So the new common agrarian policy moved from production to environment, if you are aware. And then we have to deal with the agro-environmental information on the farms. And we have Sentinel, that's perfect. Okay, so then all the policymakers can take the Sentinel, can enrich this information with their own images from own or private satellites for better precision, for example, in countries with small parcels like Greece or many others. That's perfect. And then once we monitorize those images with artificial intelligence techniques to check the NDVI index is something very useful in agro sector. And I imagine that you are using that in the binary sector also, because this allows you to take decisions on when to irrigate, how to irrigate, and the amount for irrigation, for example. If you consider that, then you can have a lot of information about agro-environmental indicators, carbon sequestration. But for example, if you go to the nitrate emissions, you need feedback from farmers. Farmers have to say when they seed the crop, when they irrigate, when they fertilize, which is the fertilization. All those informations are necessary for the policymaker to take decision. And there is an enormous heterogeneity between countries. In many countries, they have a big precision farming sector supporting the agro sector, and then they take the information directly from the machines. So if we have an interoperable interface with machines, then we can have the information. But if not, there are other countries that have a national regulation that deals about the field book or the exploitation book. It has different names in different countries that have this information, but many times it's in paper, it's not digitalized. So again, another policy that Europe is supporting, strong digitalization efforts in the agro sector. So it seems that all those initiatives are converging, and then a solution like yours with the Policy Cloud is very useful. It's very useful. Obviously, we will see many solutions like this one, and then we need harmonization on one hand in order to take advantage of the reusability of the public information and their strategies like linked open data or something like that for the private sector, for example. And on the other hand, because this can facilitate the entrepreneurship of local actors, given more solutions to farmers, being more as a close expert for them for further decisions that they can take. We have in Europe also the GDPR regulation that assign the rights, the property of the data to farmers, to Europeans, to citizens. So then again, the business models that we can exploit here in Europe might be great and different from other from United States, for example, and there our solution can be stronger. Even we can compete also with the ICT solution that we can deploy here. So, well, all those things are thoughts that I would like to share with you. I saw also the presentation from Miguel Angel on social networks. I imagine that you are using techniques like text mining or something like that for the social networks, which again is very useful for the policymakers. And we are using that in another projects, like one called Polyrural, for the impact of rural development projects, the rural development policies, because we can select keywords addressed with the policy that we are measuring the impact. But then, which is the need, you have to manage local languages in the social networks. And in Spain, we are a small Europe. We have also different languages in Spain. So again, if you really want to measure the impact through social networks, through text mining and keywords for a specific policy, it's mandatory to use different languages. And well, all those are more or less my thoughts that I can share, and I will give the rest of the time for discussion and for questions.
Thanks a lot, Mariano. It was very interesting. And on a first, I mean, just catching the main points of what you're saying there, you really advocate for interoperability at all different levels. So maybe Miguel Angel and Javier, you want to give a first comment on the interoperability comments that Mariano put on the table here. How are we dealing with that in Policy Cloud? How is the solution dealing with this?
Yeah, I think it's key. It's a key factor, as Mariano has mentioned. So the idea is to try to make this data interoperable. So as he has mentioned, in order to try to exploit this data and to try to open this data to the general public, so many companies or entrepreneurs, they can exploit this data. So I think that's really important to make the data interoperable and to try to give access to this data.
Javier, do you want to say anything about this, about interoperability and how we're dealing with that, also on a policy level, policy making level, with the data that you're sourcing?
Yeah, that is clear that we have a lot of data from the agriculture and agri-food sector and environment sector, but we need to involve the key actors for the end users. This is the problem. Yeah, for example, we have the helps for the economic helps to the European Commission, the PAC, CIP in English. We have the data open in here in Aragon, but the problem is that the people don't know who can we work with this data. This is the problem. We have a very long way in this sector to make a lot of job. First of all, explaining useful use case and successful use case with using data and artificial intelligence for the projects. And then we need to involve the companies and the end users to work with this data. This is the big problem and the problem of interoperability in the sector.
Yeah.
I see someone in the chat has said a +1. I guess that it's on the comment that Javier just mentioned, Vitali. Do you want to say something about, do you want to add a comment here, Vitali? Maybe we can unmute Vitali for this, Sarg. Are you dealing with the same issue? Okay, not sure if we can find Vitali. Sarg. If you have any questions, please add it to the chat or to the Q&A so that our panelists can answer your question or maybe relate to your own challenge that you're facing. Okay. Okay, thanks. So before we continue with the panel, we also have some questions to the audience. Zach, do you want to launch the Slido?
Yeah, 1 second.
So we would like to know a little bit more about you and your own challenges in your organization. So you can simply join by scanning in the QR code, or you can go to slido.com where you type in the number 891288. So if you join us there, we have a few questions that we would like to ask you, also for our panelists to understand a little bit more about your own background. So are you currently using data-driven instruments for policy making? So the answers you can give is yes, no, but I'm interested in doing so, or no, I'm not interested. So if you join us at slido.com, and then you type in the number 891288, you can answer this question. So most of you are interested. Some are not yet. Okay, good. Let's move to the next question. Do you have any challenges when considering evidence-based policymaking? Do you say no because it's easy? Do you face technical challenges? Do you have challenges in obtaining relevant data, as also Javier also mentioned now? Are you facing implementation challenges or competency challenges? So that's related to skills in the organization. Okay, most of you have implementation challenges and some technical challenges as well. Yes, let's move to the next question. Thanks. Would you be interested in implementing a cloud-based solution for data-driven policymaking like Policy Cloud? Yes, maybe, or no. So would you be interested in implementing a cloud-based solution for data-driven policymaking like Policy Cloud? Okay. Some of you already indicate yes. So for those who are interested and want to know more, please register at our website or drop us a mail. We have everything there, and we'll come back to you very quickly. Do you have the necessary skills in your organization to operate a solution like Policy Cloud? So the answers are yes, no, we would prefer to contract it as a service, or simply no. Okay, so you would like to contract it as a service. Okay. Great. Okay, so that's very interesting to know also. Okay, thanks. Yes, and no, we would like to contract it as a service. Okay, so yes, you have the skills. That's also good to read. Okay, thanks, Zach. So we can close the Slido. And then we move to the panel discussion where we left off at the first impressions that we got from what Mariano has given us in terms of food for thought. For now, what I would like to ask the people on the call to paste their questions in the chat or in the Q&A, or raise your hand. We can unmute you if you want to say it, if you want to join in the discussion. So for now, Mariano has left us with some food for thought. First one was interoperability. We already had a brief look at that. But you also mentioned, Mariano, you also mentioned the feedback from the farm. So in the feedback in terms of stakeholders. So in many other policy making areas, this would be, in cities, for example, it would be the citizens, but in the agri-food, these are the farms, right? So how are we dealing with that in Policy Cloud? Miguel Angel or Javier?
Well,
yeah, we have dealt because here is quite easy because we have a very strong relationship with the stakeholders, because some parts of the company works directly with the end users, and now in the sector is moving. It's moving for new digitalization, because the sector has understood that is square. It's understood that it's very important to get the new technologies, to get the new markets, to get the new trends, to move to make our marketing tools for the young people. The people wants to modernize the companies, but the problem is that sometimes is the implementation, sometimes technical problems, but we are starting to move it. We are starting to move it in this sector and other sectors also, because, for example, you can save some cost. some final cost with this kind of tools, and this is important. You have to talk about with this sector, especially with the agri-food sector, you have to talk about money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like for money, because if the tool the tool gives you something that's save cost, it's quite important, because we are talking about a sector with a few profits, a few percent for profits. So some parts of the sector are working in the 5% of benefits in the day to day. No? The position is important to say, okay, so if you apply this technology, you can save this cost, and say, okay, but it's important. And now there are a first step of modernization of the farms, for example. The farms of a big sector, for example, is a very good example. The farms now are very more farms, but these farms give you a lot of data. But now we have to do the next step. For example, make some tools to use this data that gives you the expectation. And the wine sector and the other sectors is the same situation.
It's been also very important that we have tried to gather all the requirements with co-creation workshops. So we have invited all the stakeholders, and we have received their point of views, their needs. So as Javier has mentioned, we have a close cooperation with them.
That's very interesting. So what I saw that you wanted to react, Mariano, is that when Javier was talking about, for this sector, it's very important to talk about the costs and on the return on investment probably as well, right? So do you want to comment there?
To share a couple of additional thoughts. Yes, in the agro sector, we have to talk about money. There is a culture and that everything have to be for free, which is not the case. As far as it is mandatory, for example, to deliver to the public administration the field book, not only in Spain but in many countries, I will, like for example, the banks gives a field book to them for free in order to make the declarations for the common agrarian policy, and this is for free, and then they get the money that is paid to farmers, one benefit, and another benefit is that they take the data, two benefits. So I will suggest to follow this example, not only for banks, but for everyone, for cooperatives, for the policy cloud solution, for FMEs providers, for all of them, because we are giving additional information, additional service to farmers that might be very useful. This is one suggestion. Another suggestion for the new common agrarian policy is to pay attention to the eco schemes, because it will mean more or less money to farmers, and I'm sure that they will pay attention on that. So it's an additional suggestion, and I think that if we manage one sector as you are doing in the binary, once they see the comparison with another farmer and they see the benefits of the other, this encourages the digitalization in all of them. So all these three suggestions, I think that will benefit to you, the progress of your project.
So you're suggesting to for example, share success stories with other wineries,
yes,
and especially with the policymakers as well, to illustrate the importance of these modernization tools, as Javier already mentioned. And
yes, it's fully agree with Mariano.
It's a strong tool.
This sector works always in the same way.
And there is one topic that I think you need to be very integrated in the food sector that I couldn't quite grasp. So you're suggesting that the field book should be made available freely. So the field book.
Well, not freely. Might be freely.
Okay.
So if you develop a field book for free for farmers, yes, this could be one approach. But for me, more interesting than the field book is the data that the farmer can share. So the fieldbook will be a common interface with public administration, but with the same interface, you can share with any other sectors. And if you give the farmer a tool to share and earn money with their own data, I'm sure that this will be a very good, successful story to copy.
So
I
Javier,
think,
sorry, continue.
no, that's it.
So how could we do that? How could Policy Cloud work with this recommendation, Miguel Angel and Javier? With making our data available?
Yeah, but
Interoperable.
Yeah, but the first part of the field book is quite important. For example, we are working in our project with the field book in wine sector, and we're the first step that we did was harmonize the field book, because each farmer take the data as he wants, and it's like, hey, now come on, for working with data, we need to make a common field book and with parameters, and you have to put the data in this way. This is the first part. The first part that we did in Policy Cloud and all projects about digitalization and data and artificial intelligence with the agri-food sector is first explain successful cases, because okay, the technology works, trust me. Then we need to teach about the works with data for the users, because nobody wants. It's the problem with it's the big problem with some parts of the data. For example, open data portals has tons and thousands of data sets, but nobody knows. Nobody knows how to work with them. And this is the second step. And the third step is applying for the end user easy tool that works. And this part, for example, in Policy Cloud, we can get a simple tool to get information about social network. For example, social network in some vineyards in Aragon only works in social network in Spanish language. And this is a problem, because if you want to get the trends for example, for your main market, that could be possible, that for example, England, you need to do this work in English. It's quite important if you want to get the attention for this country. For this reason, these tools are going to give the first approach to start with this work, especially in social networks, and to get the importance. For example, for Instagram network, it's quite important, because, for example, you can publish, you can make I don't know, you have to publicitate your wine in a TV program, and the TV program must be in Spain in this moment is 4 million people, 3 million people. It's a lot of people, but it's not so important that if LeBron James, for example, opened a Vega Sicilia wine 2 years ago, but 2 months ago in Christmas, or 3 months ago, and to bear in mind that LeBron James has 45 million followers. And this photo was open for 24 million people, and 1 million people say, okay, I like. This is the importance to get this information, and you have to explain the sector that this is very, very important to access to the new technologies, to the social networks, and the new trends, the specialist websites, and this part, because the world is changing. No, the world has changed, but you need to stay in this part.
Thanks, Javier. But you are also talking then about additional skills that are needed in an organization for policymakers to be able to use the data and to use the tools that we're offering. So, for example, which kind of roles are needed for a policymaking organization to be able to run a Policy Cloud solution the
policymakers must be the leader of the starting point, because as Mariano said, is a sector that is quite used to do everything free. It's like, okay, the government is going to pay me this tool. Okay, we're going to start. Okay, I give you the tool, but probably you have to work through this tool. Because, for example, your company is not the same that there's other companies. If your market is in Russian, your main market is in Russian, you have to make this work in Russian language, for example. But if you start with the rest of the sector, and probably some managers, some users join to the project and follow and continue with the tools and improving the policy cloud tools and first using and then improving the tool.
Thanks. Are there any questions from the audience? Can you see in the chat if we have any questions that the audience wanted to ask to the panelists?
No, there's no questions from the audience.
Maybe on how you could use the solution in your own organization, for example, or maybe as a service? No, then I still have some questions for you. Because I find it very interesting to understand how this works in the agri-food sector. So if we look at the common European data spaces, they will ensure that more data becomes available for use in the economy and society while keeping companies and individuals who generate the data in control. So this is kind of what we discussed in terms of interoperability. So Mariano, how could policymakers, if you have to say one thing that how they would best benefit from this, how could they do that?
Very difficult. And very easy on the other hand. Technically, it's very easy to do. It's much a social barrier or cultural barrier to really address these kind of solutions. That's more or less the main barrier. Even if we go to the policymakers with a strong ICT skills support from someone, even we need many different ICT skills to really support the solution. We have experts on databases, but not experts on semantics on linked open data. Or we have experts on linked open data, but not experts on. So it's very difficult to really engage a multidisciplinary team of experts to really address that. And also the culture of the exploitation model, because for policymakers it's not a business model. The exploitation model, how the policymakers can take decision with stronger tools, sharing data and getting feedback and benefits from other solutions like Policy Cloud, is also a culture that we have to foster with them, because many times they have their own information, we miss a lot of. They request as much as possible, even manually, this information with a huge work of merging everything to take decisions. And if we really address an harmonization between heterogeneous stakeholders, all those things can be easy. So technology is there. It's very easy to do that, but we need a common dialogue between them.
Okay, that's very interesting, a common dialogue. And so Miguel Angel or Javier, how is Policy Cloud contributing to such a dialogue?
We are trying to enrich the ecosystem by providing more data and try to make it public. In our case, for instance, we have mentioned previously, but there are not production data. We have thoughts and scenarios based on production, but not these data are not open. So maybe we can try to contribute with our tool and provide some mechanisms in order to get or to gather these data that are private and the wineries that could provide for the project. So we can have like a win-to-win deal and try to enrich the open data and try to exploit this information. Thanks.
Javier, do you want to contribute, share some thoughts on this, on the common European data spaces where we will have the agricultural, a dedicated one?
No, I have talked about now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then I want to, if there are no more questions, Zach, then I want to move to the very last question that I have. Now that we've mapped the challenge for intelligent policies for the food value chain on a local and EU level, could you give one actionable recommendations for policymakers that are dealing with a policy challenge, both on a local or on the EU level, and that have seen our webinar today? So could you give them like one word, one recommendation that they can go home with?
I think that should be both local and European level, but again, in a bottom-up approach.
Bottom-up approach.
Which will guarantee the success, I think.
So that's looking at every stakeholder in the field. That's a nice recommendation. Miguel Angel, Javier, who wants to take the next one?
I think they have to try to engage the citizens and try to base policies that are based on data. They need to analyze the data and try to get in count.
So base the decisions on the data that are available.
Yeah,
nice.
And citizens' interest.
And citizens, thanks. Javier.
Seeing how the pioneer projects have successful. This is the most important. We have a very successful project to get and involve the rest of the stakeholders.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. Okay, perfect. Then I want to thank everyone that has joined our webinar for joining us today. We will make the recordings available as well as the slides. And thank you to all our speakers for your wonderful contributions and presentations. It was nice having this discussion with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.